In a small, cheerful town lived 5 friends: Ayan, Lily, Hamza, Noor, and Sophia. They loved playing together, exploring old places, and sharing stories that sparked their imaginations. One bright afternoon, while playing hide-and-seek near the old library, Ayan noticed something strange under a dusty wooden bench. It was a small box wrapped in shiny golden paper. The sunlight made it sparkle, as though it held a secret waiting to be uncovered. Ayan called the others, and together they carefully unwrapped it. Inside lay a beautiful round button, golden and glowing like a star. "What is this?" Lily whispered in awe. "It looks magical," Hamza said, gently running his finger over it. "Maybe it does something special." Noor, who loved fairy tales, gasped. "What if it's a button from heaven? Maybe it can reach God." The children giggled at her idea, but deep inside, each of them felt something different about this button. It wasn't an ordinary toy. There were tiny words carved along its edge, so faint they almost missed them. Noor leaned close and read aloud, "Press only when your heart is pure, your hands help others, and your voice has subscribed to goodness." The children stared at each other. "Subscribe to goodness?" Sophia repeated, confused. Ayan thought for a moment and then smiled. "Maybe it means joining together, like subscribing to something good, like when we follow a channel to learn stories and lessons. It's not just pressing a button, it's choosing to be part of kindness." Just then, they saw an old man walking slowly with a heavy basket of fruits. He stumbled, and some apples rolled onto the ground. Without a word, the children rushed to help. Lily gathered the fallen apples, Hamza lifted the basket, Noor dusted the fruits, and Sophia supported the man's arm. The old man smiled warmly. "Thank you, dear children. May God bless you for your kindness." As soon as they returned to the bench, something incredible happened. The golden button lit up brighter than ever before. It pulsed with golden light, almost like it had a heartbeat. "It worked!" Noor cried. "Helping others made it glow." Hamza pointed at the carving again. "And don't forget, it said, 'Subscribe to goodness.' Maybe we need to do both. Help others and press the button like we subscribe to join God's mission." Excited, the children placed their hands together on the golden button and pressed it gently, as though pressing the subscribe button on their favorite channel of good deeds. A warm glow surrounded them, rising upward like a beam of light into the sky. "Look!" Sophia shouted, pointing upward. "It's like our kindness and promise traveled straight to heaven." From that moment, the children made a pact. They called themselves the Little Helpers. Their mission was to always choose goodness, help others, and subscribe to every lesson that guided them closer to God. Every time they spread kindness and pressed the button, the glow grew stronger, as if God Himself was smiling down, proud of the children who chose to subscribe to goodness. And so began their magical journey, where every good deed and every subscription of the heart became a step closer to reaching heaven. 16 years passed in the kingdom of Arvandor, years that shaped 2 very different lives. Within the palace walls, Liana grew as the beloved princess, her every whim catered to, her every desire fulfilled. Courtiers admired her grace and beauty, and the people adored her as the jewel of the realm. Yet behind the glittering gowns and endless feasts, a quiet unrest lived in her heart. Though she was surrounded by luxury, Liana felt like a bird in a golden cage, yearning for something she could not name. Meanwhile, in a village nestled near the edge of the forest, Ilara thrived as the daughter of simple folk. She was strong and kind, with hands calloused from work and a spirit made resilient by the trials of common life. The villagers loved her for her compassion, for she helped the sick, carried water for the weary, and laughed freely, even when her own burdens were heavy. Though she had no knowledge of her true identity, a quiet nobility shone through her every word and deed. She was, unknowingly, a princess in all but name. One evening, as the sun sank behind the hills and painted the sky in crimson hues, Ilara's guardian, Marin, called her close. The midwife, now weathered with age, carried secrets in her eyes that had long weighed upon her soul. With trembling hands, she offered Ilara a small velvet pouch. Inside lay a golden bracelet, etched with the royal crest of Arvandor, its surface gleaming faintly in the firelight. Elara, Marin whispered, her voice both fearful and tender. You must know the truth. You are no ordinary girl. You are the lost princess of this kingdom, taken from your cradle on the night of your birth. This bracelet was yours, a token of the blood that runs through your veins. Elara froze, her heart thundering like a war drum. The world tilted beneath her feet. How could such words be true? She, a princess? The laughter of the village. Char's the taste of bread earned with toil. The warmth of her humble home, was all of it a veil hiding her true self? Yet as she gazed at the bracelet, something stirred deep within her, a sense of belonging she had never understood until this moment. Tears welled in her eyes, but alongside fear grew resolve. If what Marin said was true, she could not remain in the shadows. She needed to see the palace, to look upon the king and queen with her own eyes. Perhaps, she thought, the truth would reveal itself if she dared to seek it. That night, as the stars glittered above like watchful eyes, Elara packed what little she owned and clutched the bracelet close to her heart. She whispered farewell to the only family she had ever known and set her steps toward the palace that had once been her home. Unbeknownst to her, destiny was guiding her path toward a meeting long delayed but inevitable. Two lives, once swapped in silence, were on the verge of colliding with a force that would change the kingdom forever. The palace shimmered like a jewel beneath the glow of countless lanterns. That night the royal court hosted a grand ball, inviting nobles from far and wide to celebrate the 16th birthday of Princess Leanna. Musicians filled the air with lilting melodies, and the great hall glittered with silks and jewels, each noble vying to outshine the other in splendor. Leanna stood at the center of it all, radiant in a gown of silver and sapphire, her smile graceful though her heart remained unsettled. Yet across the city, in the shadow of towering gates, Elara arrived at the palace. Clad in a simple cloak and worn boots, she felt the weight of countless eyes upon her. The bracelet on her wrist pulsed with meaning, whispering to her that she belonged within those walls. Though fear tugged at her, determination kept her steady as she slipped inside among the crowd, unnoticed by the guards more interested in the parade of nobles. The moment she stepped into the great hall, whispers rippled through the assembly. Eyes widened, mouths parted, fans fluttered nervously. For there, amidst the glittering throng, stood two girls with identical faces. Leanna froze mid-step, her gaze locking onto Elara's with disbelief. It was like staring into a mirror, yet the reflection was cloaked in simplicity, eyes burning with a truth Leanna could not deny. The music faltered as the hall grew silent. "Who is she?" nobles murmured, glancing between the two girls. "She looks just like the princess." The king and queen exchanged startled glances, while Lady Brienne's face drained of color. Panic clutched her heart, for she alone understood the truth that now threatened to unravel her years of deception. "Guards!" Brienne cried, her voice sharp as steel. "Seize that impostor!" But before the soldiers could act, King Edric raised a commanding hand. His voice boomed across the hall, firm yet curious. "Sire, no, this girl will stay." The crowd buzzed with excitement and suspicion. Elara bowed her head, struggling to hold her composure under the weight of so many stares. She longed to speak, to shout her truth, but the time was not yet right. For now, she would wait. Leanna's heart raced as she slipped away from the crowd, signaling to Elara with a subtle glance. Later that night, in the quiet of the palace gardens, the two would meet face to face. The moment of revelation had come, and neither girl's life would ever remain the same. The palace gardens were hushed beneath the silver glow of the moon, their fountains whispering like conspirators. Among the roses and marble statues, Elara and Leanna finally stood face to face. Their resemblance was uncanny, as though nature itself had carved them from the same stone, yet their differences were just as stark. Leanna carried herself with practiced poise, her gown trailing like starlight, while Elara's posture bore the confidence of a girl who had worked with her hands and lived among common folk. For a long moment neither spoke. The air was heavy with the weight of unspoken truths. At last Elara lifted her wrist, revealing the golden bracelet. The royal crest gleamed beneath the moonlight, undeniable in its claim. "This was mine from the day I was born," Elara said softly, her voice steady though her heart thundered. "Marin told me everything. You lived the life that was meant for me." Lyanna's emerald eyes widened, and she staggered back as though struck. "No, that cannot be." Her words faltered, but doubt clouded her gaze. Deep inside, something in her had always felt wrong, out of place, as if her soul had been tethered to a life beyond her reach. Before she could speak further, another presence emerged from the shadows. Lady Brienne, her face twisted with fury, stepped into the moonlight. "Enough!" she hissed, her voice trembling with rage. "I will not allow this lie to undo everything I've built." Elara turned to face her, anger burning in her chest. "You're the one who stole me from my cradle. You deceived the king and queen. Why? For what?" Brienne's lips curled into a bitter smile. "Because you were never meant for greatness. Do you think a child of commoners could rule? Lyanna was perfect, flawless, the daughter this kingdom needed. I gave her a crown and spared you from obscurity. You should be grateful." Lyanna's voice quivered as Sue. He stepped forward. You mean I was never truly theirs? That my life has been a lie?" "Silence!" Brienne snapped. Panic glittered in her eyes as she saw the princess wavering. "Do not listen to her. She is a fraud, a thief who seeks to steal your place." But the conviction in Elara's gaze made Lyanna falter. She knew deep down that Brienne's words rang hollow. Yet before Lyanna could speak her heart, Brienne clapped her hands sharply. Guards stormed into the garden, their armor gleaming. "Seize her!" she ordered, pointing at Elara. The soldiers obeyed, seizing Elara's arms and wrenching the bracelet from her wrist. Lyanna cried out, but Brienne silenced her with a cold glare. Dragged through the palace corridors, Elara was thrown into the dark, damp dungeons below. The iron bars clanged shut, echoing like a cruel promise. Alone in the shadows, she clutched her aching wrists and whispered to herself, "The truth will come out. No matter what they do to me, the truth will rise." Above her, Lyanna remained in the moonlit garden, the bracelet still burning in her memory, and a terrible choice pressed upon her heart. The dungeons of Arvandor were a place of despair, their stone walls damp with centuries of sorrow. Yet within those shadows, Elara's spirit did not break. She sat upon the cold ground, her thoughts sharp as blades, replaying every word spoken in the garden. The bracelet, the truth, the betrayal. These were not dreams, but realities that could no longer be ignored. Meanwhile, in the royal chambers above, Lyanna paced relentlessly. The golden bracelet lay upon her bed, its crest glowing in the candlelight, taunting her with the truth. She could not forget the fire in Elara's eyes, nor the conviction in her voice. Deep within her heart, Lyanna knew that the life she lived had always been borrowed, like a gown that never quite fit. The following morning, King Edric descended to the dungeons himself, his footsteps echoing down the corridor. He stopped before Elara's cell, his stern gaze softened by curiosity. "Who are you, child?" he asked, his voice heavy with both command and compassion. Elara rose to her feet, her chains rattling. "I am Elara, daughter of Edric and Celine. On the night of my birth, I was stolen from my cradle and replaced. Lady Brienne confessed it herself." The king's eyes narrowed. He had served too many years to be swayed by lies, yet there was no mistaking the resemblance between this girl and the princess upstairs. Her voice carried no deceit, only truth woven with sorrow. That evening Queen Celine joined him. When her gaze fell upon Elara, her breath caught. Memories surged, of a newborn child with emerald eyes and a golden bracelet gifted by her ancestors. Her hand trembled as she reached for the girl, though the iron bars separated them. "I believe her," Celine whispered, her voice breaking. "Look at her, Edric. She is ours." But before the king could declare his judgment, chaos erupted. Lady Brienne's treachery had not gone unnoticed by O. There's fearing discovery, she fled the palace under cover of night, her heart consumed with vengeance. But her absence only strengthened Elara's case. With heavy deliberation, the Council of Elders was summoned. After long hours of debate, they reached an impasse. Two girls, both raised as princesses, both beloved in different ways. How could they choose one without tearing the kingdom apart? The solution was announced: a trial of the crown. Tests of wisdom, courage, and heart would reveal the rightful heir. The kingdom would see with their own eyes who deserved the throne. In her cell, Ilara accepted the challenge with quiet resolve. Above, Lyanna trembled at the thought, caught between fear of losing her crown and longing to know the truth of who she truly was. The trials loomed on the horizon, and with them, the fate of Arvandor itself. Chaffee words. The day of the trials dawned with tension crackling in the air. Crowds gathered from every corner of Arvandor, filling the grand amphitheater where history would be written. At the center stood Ilara and Lyanna, the two princesses, one born to the crown, the other raised by it, facing the tests that would decide their destinies. The first trial was the Hall of Mirrors. Each girl was led into a chamber lined with countless reflections, each one twisting their image into a different form. Lyanna faltered, overwhelmed by visions of vanity, shadows of her insecurities magnified 100-fold. She saw herself draped in jewels, but her eyes were hollow. Ilara, though shaken, faced her reflection with quiet strength. She whispered, "I am enough, with or without a crown." And the mirrors cleared, revealing her true self. The judges nodded, impressed. The second trial tested courage. A lion with eyes of fire was brought forth, its roar shaking the ground. Lyanna tried to command it, her voice trembling, but the beast snarled and stepped forward. Ilara, instead, approached with humility, kneeling before the creature. "You are not my enemy," she whispered. The lion studied her, then bowed its great head and retreated into the shadows. The crowd gasped in awe. The third and final trial was of the heart. Each princess was asked what she would give for her kingdom. Lyanna's voice quivered as she promised strength and beauty. Ilara, however, spoke with steady conviction. "I would give my life, my love, and every breath I have for the people. For a crown is not meant to serve me. I am meant to serve them." The council leaned heavily toward Ilara, their decision clear. Yet before they could speak, a scream split the air. Lady Brienne had returned, dagger glinting in her hand. Rage burned in her eyes as she lunged at Ilara, determined to finish what she had begun 16 years ago. Lyanna, moved by a love she had only just discovered, threw herself in front of her sister. The blade struck, and blood blossomed upon her gown. Gasps rippled through the amphitheater as Lyanna crumpled, her sacrifice echoing louder than any trial. The crowd fell into stunned silence. The trials had ended, but destiny had spoken in blood and sacrifice. The amphitheater was hushed, the air heavy with shock and sorrow. Ilara knelt beside Lyanna, cradling her sister's fragile body. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she pressed her hands against the wound, desperate to hold life within her. Lyanna's lips trembled, her voice faint as a whisper of wind. "Promise me," she breathed, her eyes searching Ilara's with desperate clarity. "Promise me you will rule with kindness. Promise me you will be what I could not." Ilara's heart broke as she nodded, her voice choked with grief. "I promise. I swear it on my life." The healers rushed forward, carrying Lyanna away. The amphitheater erupted into chaos, but amid the turmoil, one truth became clear. Ilara was the rightful heir. The council declared her the true princess of Arvandor, and the crown that had once rested falsely was placed upon her head. Cheers rose from the crowd, but in Ilara's heart, triumph was tempered by sorrow. Days later, in the quiet of the royal chambers, Lyanna awoke. Pale and weakened, she opened her eyes to see Ilara at her bedside, the crown upon her brow. Fear flickered for an instant, fear of rejection, of being cast aside, but Ilara only took her hand and smiled through tears. "You are not my rival," Ilara whispered. "You are my sister." The words broke through Lyanna's despair, and she wept freely, her tears mingling with her sister's. The bond that had been stolen from them at birth was now restored, forged stronger by sacrifice and forgiveness. Together they faced the kingdom. Ilara ruled as queen, her heart guided by compassion and justice. Lyanna stood beside her, no longer pretending to be what she was not, but instead embracing her true place as advisor, protector, and beloved sister. The people came to cherish them both, seeing in their unity the strength that deception had once tried to destroy. Lady Brienne, stripped of her power, was banished to live out her days in exile, her schemes dissolved like smoke. The kingdom flourished under Elara's reign, for she ruled not with pride, but with humility, learned from the life she had lived among the villagers. And so, the tale of the swapped princesses became legend. Not a story of rivalry, but of reconciliation. Not of envy, but of unity. A story whispered to children across generations. That truth may be hidden for a time, but it always finds its way into the light. Elara and Lyanna walked the gardens together often, side by side, no longer mirrors divided by lies, but sisters bound by truth. And in the laughter that rang between them, the kingdom found its greatest treasure. For in the end, it was not the crown that defined them, but the love they chose to share.